telecom companies Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel have decided to approach the Supreme Court to review its decision that effectively means a 90,000 crore rupee hit for the telecom sector. The decision comes days before all three major players will announce a hike in tariffs, the first time in years. But will possible relief, if it comes from the top court, and a hike in tariffs be enough to pull this industry out of the tough situation it seems to be stuck in? What's the way ahead for the telecom sector in India? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by R. Chandrasekhar, former president of NASSCOM, Rajiv Sharma of SBI Cap Securities, and A. Ramachandran, senior partner at EMA Partners. Welcome to all of you and thank you for speaking with us today. Let me come to you, Mr. Chandrasekhar, on, the basic question we're asking. We, of course, talking about this in light of the fact that the key players are going back to the Supreme Court with an urge to review its decision. But even that may not be enough to pull them out of the trouble they find themselves in if they get some more relief.
Well, first thing is that the big question is whether they will get any relief by going back to the Supreme Court. And if they do get that relief, and if the relief that the government has now decided are both become available to them, then definitely to a certain extent that does put them in a somewhat better situation than they are in today. While it's a good thing that the government has decided on a package because it shows that the gravity of the problem has been recognized. But at the same time, I think it needs to be clearly understood that what the government has approved or decided, which the cabinet had recently announced, in the light of the Supreme Court order, assuming that the Supreme Court order remains as it is, the government relief is more of a survival package rather than a revival package. That means that the issues and challenges of viability, the issues and challenges of investment in rural infrastructure, the issues and challenges in terms of investing in 5G technology, spectrum for 5G, etc., remain. And that could pose a big challenge to the spread of telecom infrastructure and ultimately to the visions of digital India.
Absolutely. And that truly is the bigger question, which is why we need to also look back on a week of, frenetic activity in the sector. Let me come to Mr. Ramachandran. And, your take on what is the big picture? The fact is, even the dominant player with the largest market share, their finances are not that stable. Discount rates are not helping the sector, and there is a limit to how much they can increase tariffs. Let's talk a bit about the tariff hike that we are possibly looking at in about 5 or 6 days. Is your sense that all three players will play ball and have similar rates, or will there be another fight which starts there?
Before I get into the tariff, Tamanna, I know I have been advocating about government intervention, and I think government has intervened, and rightfully so. And I think I agree with Chandrasekhar, very beautifully put. It is more of a survival package rather than a revival package. I don't think anybody could have articulated it better. So we'll have to wait and see. But definitely, I think it is a move in the right direction. Nobody is denying that. With regards to tariff hikes, there is a scope for increase for all the players, to increase their tariff. And with this combination along with the tariff hike, I think this sector should see some kind of a revival. I will go on to say that. So we'll have to wait and watch. They do have headroom for increasing the tariff. There is no doubt about that. In my view, I think each of these players can increase their tariff by anywhere between 20 to 30%. There will be an increase in tariff, and I believe they should rightfully do so. We often talk about poor quality of service. Poor quality of service. If the quality needs to go up, then I believe that we have to pay for the good quality of service. And I think we have
I'm sorry,
reached the stage
I must
where
interject there.
even if there is a slight increase in tariff.
I'm sorry, quickly interject there. The increase in tariffs is not coming with any promise of improved quality of service. The increase in tariff is coming with the reasoning that we need this increase to survive and give you the service we're already giving you. I have not even come to the point of view from the consumer where, you know, the quality of service is poor.
No. My point here is this. You know, see, for the service to happen, the industry needs to survive, right? And for the industry to survive, they need to increase the tariff. That is the first step. Then let's move into the quality of service aspect.
Okay, Rajiv Sharma, let me come to you first with sort of your take on the developments that we've seen this week, and two major ones, in a sector that we've been tracking very closely right here on the show. One, of course, being the 2-year moratorium from the government, and the second being telecom companies going back, at least two of them, and hoping for the Supreme Court to review its decision. Do you think that these are the kind of moves which will help this sector back on its feet at a time when we're talking about this turning into a duopoly or you know, a two-player market?
Hi. So the way, you know, I would see this thing playing out as very rightly put, you know, initially survival and revival package. So government is definitely come out and said that we want it to be a 3-player market, and the moratorium is very incremental step. It's not a very meaningful one. And then there are other decisions which are coming from possibly a GST council. So possibly few more steps will be taken, and when they add up, maybe we'll see survival. But what about the capex, and what is the broader objective? We in India, with lack of, you know, physical infrastructure, 5G in itself can be a very meaningful role in the whole scheme of things, with more densification of networks, and you will see a lot of investments going on. Where will that investment come from? I'm for sure, you know, we will see the biggest tariff hikes coming in over the next month or so ever in the telecom sector. It will be at least 20-25%, because when was it last when you had 3 players and 3 private players coming together and agreeing to you know, a tariff hike, and also talking about a regulator being involved in that, possibly some support pricing on data and voice. But despite that, the steps so far not meaningful, but possibly more could come. I don't think government has taken a stand that they are unlikely to take more steps, but it will be more gradual and over a more maybe close to the date or over a period of time.
No, we have to look at this in the bigger picture. The government also has limited space to go around rescuing every sector. It's not just the telecom sector in need of you know, attention right now. We're talking about telecom today, but the auto sector is crying. The SMEs are in a bad shape. The exporters need help. So there is limited, you know, headroom. But let me come back to the question about 5G. And Mr. Chandrasekhar, that brings us to the point about the next, you know, block of spectrum auctions. Now, what should we do with 5G? Because auctions are an opportunity for any government to really bring in some serious revenues. Here you have players who look like it's very difficult for them to even stay stable. What do you think should be the approach to 5G now as a policy?
Look at the digital communications policy of 2018, which the government announced. There's a very significant sentence there, which I believe has never ever been put into any telecom policy in the past. And that says that accordingly, this policy prioritizes universal coverage over revenue maximization. That's a very significant statement. But the question is, what does it mean? And when push comes to shove, will the government actually implement that? Of course, it's not the job of the government to bail out an individual company which is in trouble. That's certainly not the case and can never be the case. However, when the entire sector is in trouble, and that too, it's a crucial infrastructure sector on which the whole economy today depends heavily, then certainly the government has to look at what steps are required. Secondly, even if there is even if there is one company which is operating and which is surviving, the lack of competition certainly is a matter of grave concern to consumers. The best security for consumers is to have adequate competition. Therefore, the government needs to get concerned when there is either a decline or an elimination of competition for whatever reasons, or when there isn't enough money to invest in infrastructure. So in the current scenario, coming to the 5G auctions, where even the ecosystem for 5G in terms of the cost of handsets, the cost of equipment, all of that has still not reached the kind of scale which LTE equipment or the older 2G had reached, would actually put it into a higher cost equilibrium, which the sector certainly in the current scenario would not be in a position to do. So I think that priority wise, putting the sector onto a sound financial and economic footing should have a higher priority than conducting the 5G auctions right now, because not only may that not result in adequate revenues for the government, but I think it requires a really concerted game plan on how this whole question of universal coverage being prioritized over revenue maximization would actually get translated in a manner that makes sense to the government, to the telecom players, and to the consumers.
Okay, let me take the 5G question along with a bit more detail on, the quality of service question, and I'm coming to Rajiv now on this, because whenever we have these discussions, we talk about the health of the industry, which of course is vital, but let's not forget the consumers. And how open are they going to be to tariff hikes beyond a point? Ramachandran is talking about hikes as steep as 30%. I don't see that happening, frankly, but do you see that happening, Rajiv? And where is the improvement in service and quality of service along with it? There is no talk of that at all.
So let me take your second aspect first, that improvement in service is a function of capex, and capex is a function of capex is an application of funds. For that you need source, and for source you need tariff hike, but that's not adequate because you've got huge interest burdens, interest costs. So you need to service that. Okay, there is a spectrum moratorium that pushes down spectrum payments by 2 years, and then you have the AGR related payments, and then comes the capex. So this is the AGR related payments are something which needs to be addressed, because if they have to pay that upfront, then there is hardly anything left for capex and customer experience, because at some point of time Bharti, be it Jio, they will have to add more 4G spectrum as well. Now coming to tariff hikes, yes, we believe that at least 20% is possible, because we've come down from 196 to 108, so there's been a sharp decline, and so when it goes back, and there seems to be a consensus, then it goes back by 25-30%. So that will mean 8,000-9,000 crores of cash flows at least across all telcos, but that may still not be enough if they have to pay for the AGR, particularly the incumbents. So capex, we've already seen Bharti cutting down capex this fiscal. Vodafone has cut down the guidance as well.
Yeah.
So that's likely to take a back seat in my view.
So from the consumer point of view, because anyone watching this is obviously also a consumer, we are looking at a regime of, you're saying lower capex, so no improvement in quality of service, possibly worse. If there is one lesser player, then definitely worse quality of service and increased tariffs. Am I summing that up correctly, Mr. Ramachandran? It's not great news for all of us as consumers?
See, 2 weeks back when we were talking about the survival of this sector in itself, right?
Yeah.
Today we are talking about consumer experience. For me, that is an improvement in what we have been talking earlier to what we are talking now.
No, but survival is still on the table.
As a positive
Survival is still on the table.
So, so from a standpoint of consumer, I think we'll have to grin and bear it for some time. So as far as consumer experience is concerned, I think we'll have to wait for some time. We'll have to give these organizations some time to stabilize. And as Rajiv said, if AGR comes in, then I'm not too sure how much of money they will have to invest in improving the infrastructure, which in turn will improve the consumer experience. 5G we spoke of earlier, right? So for me 5G is very critical, not only from the perspective of telecom as a sector. For me 5G is an enabler for other industries. So for me that is the most critical piece that the government should focus on. 5G will be the enabler for other businesses, other industries. A lot of new age industries will mushroom around 5G as a concept. So we would definitely need to focus on that aspect more seriously. When I say we, the government, I would say.
No, absolutely. And, the fact is that just looking at this from the narrow prism of which companies will survive and how much they will pay is really not the solution for India to take the next step. We need that tech support and communications network across the country. Here's hoping for the best for the sector and, of course, for the consumer experience. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today on the India Development Debate. That's all the time we have this evening. Thank you for watching.